Very substantial news down the street in Chapel Hill on Tuesday. What kind of impact will this have on Saturday's game?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our opening Tuesday sponsor is Gametime. Perhaps you're still in the market for Saturday's football tickets. If you are, head on over to Gametime, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase, only on Gametime. Happy Tuesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, there was some news that came out of Dirty Footland on Tuesday morning. In fact, it almost seemed too good to be true, or in another sense for Wolfpack fans, how can this be true? We were certainly hoping for the inverse effect. Head coach for UNC football, Mack Brown, will be fired at the conclusion of this season. However, he will coach against us on Saturday, but that will be his swan song. Were you surprised at the way that this all went down, Kenton?
Absolutely. Objectively speaking, he's their winningest coach of all time. They have had 2 times ever.
Crazy to think about.
They have had 2 times ever of going to 6 straight bowl games. Guess who was the head coach during both of them?
Mack Brown, I think.
Damn near 3 decades apart. He's the head coach of both of them. That guy has earned the right to say, hey, listen, I'm going to be here till I hang it up. And if I stay a little too long, let me stay a year or 2 or 3 too long, because that's just what it is. I don't get it. I don't get it, especially seeing as how, again, a very middling team overall. Like, yes, you could say, oh, another coach will get us to higher highs. Sure, that's possible. They'd also get you the lower lows. Yeah. So, I mean, I look at this thing and I'm just like, the timing of it's weird. If you were going to do this, do it when you get blew out by JMU, when you let JMU hang a $70 stake the size of your back on you. That's the moment you probably should have been like, all right, we're pulling the plug now. But to wait this late, I mean, Coach Doran and company, go get some of those recruits. Go get them. Go call those boys. Hey, I know you committed over there, but you don't even know who your coach is going to be. You know what I mean? Like, hey, man, I know you don't like that damn well all that much. It's gross. It's a gross tradition. It's one of the nastiest traditions in all the college. Come on over. So, I mean, objectively speaking, I think the timing's weird. I think it's it was handled in a very sloppy way, especially a week after the coach is just like, oh, I'm coming back. And the administration's like, actually, I don't know who told you that information, but that is not your choice to make, brother. It's just very nasty business.
Yeah, the timing was very weird. In fact, I think it came out like a week ago that he had reportedly been telling some recruits that he will be returning in 2025. And I think as late as like literally yesterday on Monday in his press conference, he was giving the idea that he would in fact be back next year, only for the iron blue fist to come down on him on Tuesday and say, no, brother, in fact, you will not be here next year in 2025. The timing was very weird. I agree with you because, yeah, if you're looking at any point over the course of their season that you think may have made the most sense, it would have been at the conclusion of that JMU game, or even if that wasn't enough for you, after the Duke game where you blew a literal 20-0 lead in the fourth quarter. The funniest thing about this, and I don't want this to come across as like a big compliment, I think Mack Brown has sneakily done like a better coaching job than Dave Doran has this year. Because the way that UNC looked in the beginning of this season, they looked like a complete rudderless ship. They've somehow turned out with 6 wins, which is nothing fantastic, but their starting quarterback was lost in game 1. You get blown out by JMU. You lose to, I won't even really call them a rival. You lose to your best friend in Duke, and then you find ways to somehow become bowl eligible. That's not the worst job in the world. So I am a little bit surprised at the way that they're kind of pulling trigger here on a Tuesday before the last game of the year, no less. However, something I've come to agree with, and a lot of people started pouring out on social media, I do think that they did this as like a motivational tactic for their team. Because if you know you're going to move on from him and you want your team to kind of have like one last rah-rah moment, why not make it this one against us of all teams? And it becomes like a win-win for the Gipper situation. I think that was their motivation in making this move on Tuesday. At least you would think that Mack Brown would earn a little bit more respect from the administration over there down the street, but apparently not. So that leads me into the bigger discussion here. Kenton, what type of impact do you think this will have on the game on Saturday?
It depends on how NC State handles it. I mean, it depends on how NC State plays it. A team that has that win-one for the Gipper energy, one thing that they're known to do is exert too much energy early. If you can calm that, if you can come out of this game with an early lead, come out of the first quarter with an early lead, that team's spirit's going to break.
Yeah.
That team, they're not a tough team. They're not a resilient team. If you find yourself up 14-0 or something like that, I am almost certain, especially if you have possession and go put more points on the board that next drive, that team is going to get no mas. Oh, they won't want to let down the electric environment that is Keenan.
Yeah, give me a break.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that team will be ready to be put out of its misery. However, if you let them get good and rolling, and you let that little lather that they're going to be building up work its magic, and we got to win one for the old timer. We got to win one for the old time. You let that get on top of you. Next thing you know, it'll get ugly in a hurry. It'll get ugly in a hurry. I 100% know that this UNC team will come out with their hair on fire. We have to be meeting that with the exact same energy, with the exact same belief of, hey, we got to get this thing done, period. We got everything we got right here, right now, we need to give it. Because if not, well, it'll go another way, a way that none of us wanted to go, and it'll make those leftovers a little bit less tasty than they would have been otherwise.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is everyone wants to talk about this being a motivational tactic for UNC, when in fact, I think it should be viewed as a motivational tactic for NC State, because you don't want to be the team that loses to a lame duck coach and a rudderless ship in a season where you had lofty expectations. You're fighting for your bowl eligibility now in week 12. How utterly embarrassing would it be to go down the street and get humbled by a team that has no program direction? That would be a doomsday, rock bottom nightmare scenario. So I'm hoping that NC State will do a little bit extra this week to get up for this one, a little bit more than you might give in your typical Carolina-NC State matchup, because again, you don't want to be the team that takes the L in this situation, because I promise you, we will never, and I do mean never, hear the end of it if that turns out to be the case. So Dave Dorn and company, you got to rally the troops regardless, because you're playing Carolina. It is the game, but maybe more now than ever before. You can't lose this game. You absolutely cannot lose this game. That would be, we all know what that would be. So added motivation for one side, possibly added motivation for both sides. We're going to have to see how this all shakes out on Saturday. Coming up next, we're getting into a whole lot of nothing or a whole lot of something. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Tuesday sponsor is Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks, and it makes getting tickets to all of your favorite live events easier than ever before. Gametime filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, and you won't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The curation of Gametime Picks makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it, they got it. Toggling the all-in pricing feature on the app will show your total upfront, so you receive zero surprises at checkout. And as always, you get that panoramic view of your seat you buy, so you know exactly what to expect upon arrival. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, and again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? You already know. Gametime. Middle portion of our Tuesday show. Now time for a whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something. 3 topics. We'll tell you exactly where we stand on them. First one here. Going back to Thursday night, NC State rushed for 8.7 yards per carry, which is a high in the last 20 years of Wolfpack football. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
Whole lot of nothing for multiple reasons. Number
lost.
one, you lost the game. I've had games in my life where I had 2, 3, 4 sacks. And if my team lost, guess what those sacks meant? It meant nothing. And even beyond that, I say a whole lot of nothing because we're too inconsistent.
Yeah.
I could understand if we were a team that like, hey, we rushed for 8.7 on this day, and another day we rushed for 8, and another day we rushed for 7.5, and another day we rushed for 7.8. Sure, that hasn't been us. We've been very up, we've been very down, we've been very all around the place, which is like, and the can't get right itis is the biggest reason why I say a whole lot of nothing. Because the minute that we get the run game going, all of a sudden we forget how to throw the ball. All of a sudden, every pass that we throw, including a push pass, is finding its way into the hands of a defender. So a whole lot of nothing in my book.
Yeah, what you just said is the exact reason I agree. It's a whole lot of nothing because 8.7 yards per carry, that feels like the outlier for NC State football. It's never seemingly that good. And I will also say a lot of that is aided by extensive broken plays that turn into a scramble from CJ Bailey. So it's not even that like this was a run by design type of ordeal. It's just that a play was broken down and CJ was able to escape the pocket and gain extensive amount of yardage. So the NC State run game has been a massive point of contention all season long in that it's extremely inconsistent and a lot of times extremely ineffective. And so, yes, it was nice to see NC State run the ball in this fashion on Thursday night, but also it was all for nothing. We ended up losing the game, handed it back to Georgia Tech, and what looked like to be potentially a great comeback turned into a great disaster. So yes, this is a whole lot of nothing. Second one here, athletic director Boo Corrigan announces the university may be exploring naming rights for Carter Finley as a means for additional revenue into the football program. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
Let me tell you something. His mama named him Carter Finley. I'm going to call him Carter Finley.
Always.
Them boys ain't playing in no red hat football stadium. Okay? With all due respect, I don't give a damn if it's called Procom Field. That is Carter Finley. It will always be Carter Finley. But it's a whole lot of something because, boy, you and I talked about this in the past. How are teams going to come up with this extra money that's now needed? It's getting creative. It's getting sticky. Something needs to happen to kind of bridge that gap, and this is clearly one of the ways in which NC State's looking at doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a whole lot of something. I also think it's a good thing. I mean, a lot of folks, they love their tradition. It's named Carter Finley. It's always going to be Carter Finley. So regardless of what they do end up naming it, I don't really care because I'm going to call it Carter Finley anyway. But why this is a good thing, we do need more money. The program needs more money. If you want NC State to be more competitive in the NIL space or in the recruiting space, you're going to need more money to do it. And I think when you do go up against the Clemsons and the Tennessees and you see there is such a vastly wide talent gap, things like this is how NC State can slowly begin to close that gap, or at least make an attempt to. It's not going to be a fix-all, but it will certainly help. So whether they do or do not end up finding naming rights for the stadium, which brings in extensive revenue, it is a good thing for NC State. And also, where a lot of people want to think this ties in, when you're looking at the current status of our head coach and you come to understand that the buyout is much too large to make a administrative decision there, this is another way the program gets more money. And then perhaps down the line, if the poor performances do continue, there's more money to be at our disposal. So regardless of how you look at it, this is a good thing. The only con, I believe, is that you're moving into that more corporate college football space. And I understand why that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. But one, this is just where everything is headed. And two, NC State is going to have to try and keep up if you want to stay competitive in that way. So I think it's a good thing, and it's certainly a whole lot of something. And third one here, NC State men's basketball is 5-0 heading into the non-conference P5 matchups here at the end of this week and the coming weeks. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
This is the toughest one of the day. It really is, because Colgate was supposed to be a tough test, and we spanked that baby, put them to sleep, but they also were missing some of their best players. But we were also missing some of our best players in that game. So it's like, this is tough. This is tough. But because I believe in Keats and he has earned himself the benefit of the doubt, I'll say a whole lot of something. I'll say a whole lot of something, because while you have not played a very tough out-of-conference schedule so far, I want to say that the ability to show up and show out in the games that you're supposed to win still means something. Because there are multiple teams that have shown the ability to not do that, or have needed massive comebacks against teams that are just not on their same level. So I would give Keats his love. I would give this team their respect and say, whole lot of something.
I think right now it's a whole lot of nothing, because ultimately you're supposed to be 5-0 at this point of the year. You really haven't had many tough opponents. Like we talked about Colgate a little bit. They were supposed to give us more of a fight than they did. But, I mean, no sense in being down that we beat them by a good margin either. So it's certainly a great thing that NC State is 5-0 at this point of the season. In fact, I believe we're the only unbeaten ACC team still left. I mean, is that a great accomplishment? No, but it feels kind of good at this point. But why it's a whole lot of nothing is because that schedule is about to get a whole lot tougher. You got Purdue on Thanksgiving, and then you have either BYU or Ole Miss. All three of those teams are very good teams. And then you have a Texas team that is ranked. They got to come to the Lenny here in the early parts of December. We are quickly going to find out what kind of basketball team we have. I think you have a general good idea right now, but this is where you really start to figure out who is who and what is what. So it feels good to be 5-0 right now, but these aren't the games that we were looking forward to. We want to see what we look like against a Purdue or a BYU or a Texas. Those games are about to kick into high gear. So 5-0 feels good, but it's a whole lot of nothing for now. A lot of basketball talk here as we get into the end of the week. We obviously do play Purdue on Thanksgiving Day or night. I can't remember what time that game is, but it's a big one. Certainly looking forward to what we learn about our NC State Wolfpack this week. And coming up next, we're getting into the Locked On Look of the Week, looking at the final defensive stand for NC State and exactly why it went so wrong. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second Tuesday sponsor is FanDuel. Tackle the NFL action this season on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if that first bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in just one singular place. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the very same page that you're placing all of your bets. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to join today. You'll get started with that $150 back in bonus bets if that first pesky $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com in order to get started. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Last couple of minutes of our Tuesday show. Now time for the Locked On Look of the Week, looking back at the final defensive stand against Georgia Tech and looking at why it went so wrong. Kenton, what do you got for us?
On Wolfpack family, we have a special treat for you this time. You know, you remember back in the day, Grayson, you and I may be too young for this, but back in the day, there used to be these things called double features in the movies where you would buy ticket. You would buy one ticket.
Man, I know about double features. Come on now.
All right. Well, congratulations, Great. We're the same age, Grayson. We're the exact. That's why I said we may both be too young for this, but we're having a double feature today because we need to get into the last two defensive plays of the game for NC State. Now, on this first play, we are running what is akin to cover three. Well, it is cover three because we have three deep safeties. One deep safety for the outside third, another deep safety for the outside third on the wide side of the field, and then a safety in the middle for the middle third. But what's unique about this is we're running 5 guys in coverage underneath as well. So we got both outside corners focused on the flat. We have both of our slot corners covering that hook curl area, and the Mike linebacker holding up that middle hole, or a linebacker in general holding up that middle hole. Now, Grayson, quick question. If we've got 3 over the top and 5 underneath, how many does that mean we have in coverage?
You got 8 in coverage.
All right. Now, we can only have 11 on the field, correct?
Correct.
So that means we got how many to rush?
Just 3.
Okay, we got 3. And how many offensive linemen do you see there?
5.
All right. So 1, 2, 3 to 5. Okay. Well, here's the thing about defense, especially really good defensive players. They do a fun thing called change the math. Really, any position on the field, if you're excellent at it, you change the math. Okay. But in this situation, what you need is a guy or two that changes the math, that says your 2 guys cannot beat me as one person. Because when you rush 3 against 5, that means that 2 guys will be double teamed. 1 guy has a one-on-one. Davin Van was a specialist at working out of his wide one-on-one situation. We unfortunately do not see the same thing with this group of young men, with all due respect. So you're going 3 against 5. And what do you think the end result was, Grayson?
5 outweighs 3.
5 outweighs 3. In the words of Vince Lombardi, we get a seal here and a seal here, and Philo runs it in the alley. But we're coming back. And Grayson, Coach Gibson figured it out. He said rushing 3 ain't enough. Rushing 3 is not enough because we went zone last time where most eyes are headed towards the quarterback, and we still couldn't get a stop in a decently short situation. But this time, we're going to bring an extra guy and go man. So what we have is man cover 2, and only the players with dots over them are rushing. Grayson, how many players have dots over them? Red dots with numbers on the inside over?
4 of them.
4 of them. How many offensive linemen are there?
5.
So we're still outnumbered, it seems, here.
Correct.
Well, one of the remedies to being outnumbered, if you don't have guys that can go, hey, give me a straight rush, make it work, you do stunts and twists and all those types of things. Now, on this particular stunt, Noah Potter is supposed to hit the hip or shoulder of 77, catch him off guard, and get upfield from there. He's either supposed to make the tackle himself or flush him out to Kelvin McBride, who's coming around the outside. On the short side of the field, we have Trevally Price in number 99 here without much in terms of a pass rush plan or whatever the case may be. Don't really see that. Grayson, what's that? What am I looking at right now?
That's a big old alley.
I'm looking at a seal here and a seal here and running it in the alley. But don't worry, Grayson. I don't think this is a good enough angle for our viewers. You know, the listeners, they can hear that, oh, look, the twist was incredibly unsuccessful. Noah Potter was easily picked up, and so was McBride. Oh, look, Price is not winning his one-on-one, and the nose guard is being double-teamed. Look at how wide this is. Look at how wide this space is. I don't care what you thought you were doing in terms of man zone, whatever. After the first 18-yard run, you need to sit somebody on this young man to stop him. Because now, the first time he was contacted on this play was Brandon Cisse at the goal line here. And that's your final result. Some interesting freshman who was slow dancing at prom a few months ago has now beat your team despite a Herculean effort from a guy like Hollywood Smothers. It was a disappointing game despite an effort to run the ball by this offensive line that was so intentional. Despite the effort of every back to break tackles and make things happen, we ended up where we ended up at.
Yeah, watching this all back again, I still cannot believe we did not employ some type of spy on Philo. Like, literally, that would have been probably the difference in this game. All you need is one stop when you've been doing such a good job for the entire night. Could not get it done in the end, and it resulted in a 30-29 loss. That'll do it for us here on Tuesday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Tell us what you think about the Dirty Foot Club giving Mack Brown the boot on Tuesday before rivalry week begins. Tell us what you think about the new possible naming rights for Carter Finley, NC State basketball 5-0 to start the season, and this Locked On Look of the Week where it all went south on defense to finish the game. Mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Wednesday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.